Hello, Mitch. Hello, Mitch. Hey, hello, YouTubers. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad that I'm spending the afternoon with you and with the wish that you're gonna get something today. You're gonna pick up something new today that you can probably ponder on uh, in the coming days, or perhaps right away after you've heard me share things like this with you. All right, so first off, allow me to introduce a little about myself. Just call me Glenn. I'm currently the director of external linkages at National University. And I'm doing this series to um, help everyone see themselves right at the very core of whatever we're going through right now, which is this pandemic. So, basic point is that this is my own way of sharing a piece of my mind so that we can learn together and we can think well together. So, for today's afternoon, allow me to submit to you that to learn well, when we learn well, we will be able to think well. So, for today, we will try to focus on perhaps not at all new items for you, but perhaps with the desire that through this, you can, even if it's an old stuff that you've come across with, you would get to see a new light about it or that comes out of this talk. All right. So, but let me start with this big question. Now, with the, stay at home, with you know that with this stay at home policy of the government, we are stuck with basically uh, our family. We are stuck with our family, whether you look at it in a nice way or not so nice way. But really, what keeps you busy? What keeps all of us busy? What eats up most of our time when we stay home? Does a portion of that staying home time devoted, do you devote some of this time to, personal knowledge, personal um, this do you upgrade whatever you already know? There are a lot of stuff that you can be occupied with, but what my point is, what have you been doing? What have we been doing for the past so many days, so many weeks? So in my case, these are the things that keep me busy. Um, for one, we've been hearing about updates regarding coronavirus in the Philippines as well as from all over the world. But have we really thought of when it's gonna end? But Singaporean, okay, because of their advanced technology, they now have their artificial intelligence that can capture data, and then this data are later analyzed, and AIs can already project when the pandemic is kind of end. But again, it's just a projection. But you see the links on my screen right now. You can actually go to that link. Perhaps you may have encountered these links already, or you may have read this already. But the point I'm driving at is it is something we can learn more about. Actually, when we read this kind of material, we are learning, and at the same time, whatever we learn from it, we can think about. And when we absorb information from such materials, I'm showing you two. You can actually click it um, and explore what the articles are about. This will provide us information, call it knowledge, that we can ponder on. And later on, personally, I get to appreciate from reading this first material how AI does it, or artificial intelligence does it. I can learn that there really are information that we can get from understanding graphs. But growing up, perhaps not only my experience would tell that when we do graphs, when we were in school during learning all about graphs, we were not really taught how to think about those graphs. Are you getting my point? So in this particular projection, in article 1, this keeps me busy because the moment I saw it, I learned to appreciate first what those graphs are and how do these graphs make sense, or how do these graphs make sense. Next, aside from the fact that we would like to have at least a projection of when the pandemic's gonna end, again, it's a projection. And then the what do we have to do, or how do we look at our daily tasks, our environment, everything that we are involved with or we are occupied with? What happens after the pandemic? That's a big question. So when I was trying to feed my mind, when I was trying to learn more, so or learn well, I came across the second article, which is all about, right, what the global scenario thinks about the new normal. So in this particular um, article, okay, I'll show that to you. Do you see my screen? So you have there beyond COVID-19. Will you define the new normal or watch it unfold? So this is some sort of a provoking thought for not only adults like us, but even for children who are uncertain when they're gonna get when they are going to go back to school. So here we are presented four particular facets of the new normal based on this particular website. That's the ey.com. I invite you to, just read this particular article thoroughly, go back to some items that really captured your attention, and come up with, you know, your own plan in relation to this. What we try to, innovate, learn something new, or do something new with something old. What they're saying here in this article, it encompasses, all right, okay, how people get to earn, how people, you know, not just get to earn, but basically how to cope after this pandemic, right? So companies will change, transport will change, travel will change, and it's me, for me, this requires not just reading, but thinking about what's gonna happen next. And being a human person who is alive and wanting to contribute a piece of me, then I can start from there as to how I can really be of help so that the impact is something that we or I can handle. Basic point in showing you this particular articles is so simple. You may just be reading some articles and passingly or something that you just browse, but really that's just getting some info about it. But learning well is when we deal with the article, when we deal with it in a more serious way, in a more thinking way, when we become serious about what we are reading. And from there, once we become serious with what we are reading, once we become occupied with what we are reading, then we can be led to think well. And that will keep you busy. Okay, allow me to, refer to we as we, everyone who's here, young and old, those who are interested and those who are willing. So here it is. We just have to explore it with yourselves, explore it so that you can learn about it well. And then perhaps as you learn about it well, you can think about it well as well. Okay. Now, there are other things that, you know, um, um, that there are the things that occupy my thoughts as an educator and as a director of external linkages. Why? Because in my kind of work, if there are no partners, then there's no business. And if businesses, okay, fail to operate, where do our kids go after graduation? So in my kind of place, I have to think how the government thinks with it so that I can have a plan that fits that fits the current situation, which will be of help to the institution, to National University, my institution. So there are other things that led me to understand a little bit more about homeschooling and unschooling. But allow me to introduce to you some guests in my presentation today. The first guest that I have in my presentation is Elon Musk. If you've not heard about Elon Musk yet, he's a guy who's very much interested in the galaxy, the space, how to bring people to Mars. So he puts in a lot of his resources to building spacecraft, etc. Or he started with the rockets and he wanted to build rockets that are cheaper. Not just cheaper, but I think the cheapest. So he started to propagate the first principle that's in physics. So if you are going to click that particular link in YouTube, he was interviewed there and he made mention about ad astra. All right. Ad astra is a Latin phrase, all right, which means to the stars. So you see how fascinated he is in, really exploring the stars. So he named his school Ad Astra. But what is amazing in this school, it was built in 2017 and it started with his 5 children. He said in the interview, and you can explore more about it. So it was in 2017, he started with his 5 children plus other children around perhaps, I think, 17. And now 2020, maybe the enrollment has grown. But what is he trying to point out in that very short interview? It's just a 2-minute something interview. He made mention there the importance of self-directed learning. Okay? It's when we talk about self-directed learning, it's matching kids' ability to a kind of education he receives. For example, all right, in that particular school, there is no grade level. So in short, if there is no grade level, it's not really traditional. It's something really new because everywhere you go, there's always a curriculum to follow. Even if Finland, that you know it claims to be offering the best education in the world, may not be focusing on the curriculum per se, but they have a program to follow when they offer their kind of education. What am I saying here? This is a kind of a school that is not traditional. So it falls under the category of probably what you call homeschooling or unschooling. But let us find out what really is homeschooling and unschooling and this kind of particular school. In the interview, the interviewer, the host, was asking Elon, can your school still teach fatherhood? But why do you think the interviewer asked that? Because the interviewer believes probably at the back of her mind that no matter how good that kind of school is, that matches the kid's ability to the kind of education he receives, it may still be lacking something. So these are things that can even if we learn well, we have to our learning well can help us think well. So will that be enough? Will that suffice for the generation that we have right now? Will that kind of school be enough for the kind of generation we have right now? And considering the number of enrollees in that particular school, how can we cater education for all? Are you with me? Okay. So basic question is this ad astra a kind of homeschooling, or is this a new kind of schooling that Elon Musk wants people generally to have? Now, before we proceed, let us first give ourselves some perspective of what unschooling is. There are a lot of materials already available in YouTube talking about homeschooling. So perhaps I will just touch a portion of it, because you can watch other webinars talking about homeschooling. But I'm not here to, really give you more about homeschooling, but I am here to make you think more about homeschooling, unschooling, traditional schooling, and whatever kind of school we think we would like to have for the current generation and beyond. So more or less, allow this talk to be an avenue by which our thoughts can uh, come up with something that, you know, perhaps mixture of the best of the best. At least there's a goal each time I talk, because there's probably not one particular method or kind of education that is appropriate in our time and age. So that's why we really have to be making good choices. So there's another artist here, another guest that we have. Her name is Alanis Morissette. She used to be a favorite in the past, um, like, you know, popularizing a lot of songs. But she espouses unschooling. And perhaps for some others, maybe it's your first time. For some others, it's not really your first time. What really is unschooling? Right? So I'm showing you the links right now. You can just click, listen to Morissette's song, Alanis, not our local Morissette. And then probably you can also check the article which was published in Huffington Post, right? Basically saying all about Alanis unschooling and what she thinks about it. And it was actually featured in a magazine, and then she keeps on tweeting it in her Twitter account and perhaps even in her IG account. How is it to become, or how is it to do unschooling for our kids? But there's one thing that really caught my attention when, I tried to research more about Alani's style of unschooling. She said that it's a 24/7 commitment and there is no curriculum that comes with it. So it depends on what kids like. What kids like. So if you are going to think about that particular sentence alone, it's a kind of education that caters what kids want. That alone gives us a lot of thought about it. So how do we come up with that kind of school or schooling at home wherein we can provide a kind of education that caters only what kids want? Remember, not everything we need to learn is something we want. So whether people like Alanis sees unschooling as the kind of education appropriate for her kids or for other kids in that matter, whether she sees it that way or differently, the point I'm driving at is, will it suffice the kind of education her kids need in this time and age? So whether you teach your kids to know more about the engine because you wanted them to explore the space, or you teach your kids to do unschooling and then let them choose only what they want to learn, don't you think that there's still something missing? Because kids may say, I don't want to learn that, I want to learn this. Yeah, but imagine a kid who only prefers to learn what he wants to learn. Isn't it that life is you know it's just like connecting bits and pieces of everything. So it's not does not exists. Our learning is not focused only on one particular aspect. Math is related with physics. Physics is related with English. There is some sort of interconnection or interrelationship with everything we learn. So the point I'm driving at is, yes, Ad Astra, unschooling, so beautiful, so perfect with my kind of kids. But would that be enough? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's not what's supposed to be. But what I'm saying is, would this be enough? All right. So, what is the difference of, Ad Astra and unschooling with homeschooling? Basic difference would be, okay, when you do homeschool and unschool, right? Unschooling may not follow certain kind of curriculum, right? But homeschooling does. In fact, if you watch some webinars about homeschooling, there are affiliated institutions that offer it. And these institutions connect with the Department of Education for assessment or leveling up, etc. So everything that homeschool does is accredited by the DepEd. All right, so you can advance your grade level once the kid, after the assessment, the kid actually gets a certain kind of scores, and that particular score will be analyzed if he gets promoted or not. So in short, homeschool still follows principle of a traditional school. It's just that the teachers of the kid remain to be the parents or the guardian or the special tutor. And kids are usually schooled at home. That's why it's called homeschool. So, in its truest sense, unschooling is child center. But, okay, does require, okay, this is the catch, it does require a great amount of preparation and time. If you are not a full time parent and you go for unschooling, it may be very, very difficult for you because you just don't show them brushes or colors or something. You need to come up with something that they need to do if that is the interest of the child. So whether one is unschooled or homeschooled, there is one important question: are kids learning well? Would that be enough for them? Would the kind of education being offered either in Ad Astra or when they are unschooled or homeschooled, will that lead them to be able to think well? That remains to be the question, isn't it? So that's the point I'm driving at today. So even if you call unschooling as a derivative of homeschooling, okay, even if you consider homeschool as also falling under the category of traditional school, still the question is, are kids learning well? Now, why do we have to learn? We're so that we can think well. First off, we are the head, not the tail. Okay, this is the situation from March 15 to now. What have we been doing so far that we can say we've been using our head? Like we've been thinking about what we've been learning. All right. There are a lot of available freewares or free offerings, programs you can find in the net. But which webinars have we been joining so far since our quarantine time? Did we try new stuff at home, like cooking new recipes for our family? That alone requires learning, and that alone requires thinking a lot. Why? Because our actions are limited, our resources as well are limited, whatever that we have in the fridge now. But it requires thinking in order for the food to look yummy to our children or to our family. What do we have to do? It takes a lot of time to learn something and think about it well. Have we enjoyed our time with our kids by engaging them cognitively, like playing chess, doing puzzle together? Perhaps they wouldn't like it because it's hard, it's difficult. But really, do we just spend time with them just like that? Another day has passed. So remember this particular sentence: we are the head, not the tail. If we will fail to think well, what would happen? What would happen to us? When we learn well, our learning will help us think well because we have to process it, right? So what have we been doing so far? So if you are an educator listening or watching this video right now, this is more of, challenging you to, go back to how you're doing your day-to-day activity. And does that satisfy you that, the day has just ended and you did what you were doing yesterday, the same thing today, and so on and forth? Is that what quarantine is all about? I keep on, challenging myself, asking the same question. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Thinking well helps us make good choices. So, you know, this is another situation. Okay, since March 15, what do our kids do? What are they busy with? Are they engaged? If you are doing something that's engaging, that's cognitively engaging, I think you are the best models in your family. So I just wanted to ask these questions because I think it's good to ask. Have you ever observed, ask, discuss how your kids think about things? Have you ever tried asking them what do they think about coronavirus? Or have you tried asking their opinion, how will it end? Or have you tried asking them that, since they like to play games, have they thought about, how to make this pandemic into a game type of activity? you know we can use our involvement or things that we are occupied with something that is meaningful and something that is learning filled. Do we even exercise? Do we even enjoin our family to exercise with us? But do you know that exercising is also something we all have to learn well? That it's not just about keeping ourselves fit and healthy, but it's all about our muscle development, even though we are already in our 40s, in our 50s, or even if we are young, we have to grow our muscles well. Or we are just focused on looking at exercise as going to the gym, perspiring, keeping fit and healthy, and showing the best beautiful body that you ever have. Is that what it's all about? So when we think well, we can help in solving problems. We can do come up with right good decisions that is good for all. We can construct new ideas and tons of others. In fact, you can have a lot of websites to learn from when it comes to why we have to think well. It's a process. It's not something that when you wake up, you already are um, equipped with a lot of you know things to do. It's a kind of habit that we need to develop in time. So when we don't think about what we learn, or when we do not process what we are learning, then there may be difficulties on the way we process knowledge, information, or everything we come across with. There's another guy I included in my presentation. I'm a fan. All right. His name is George Orwell. He wrote several novels, but there's one only that I included in this particular presentation. It's 1984, a novel. You can have your kids read the novel. It's not as thick as the actual novel we understand, but or we seem to be perceive it to be. But I think it's a short read, but there's something that really can excite the kids most as they read 1984. But allow me to share something little about George Orwell. That's just his pen name. He has a real name, but he chose to be called George Orwell. Now, he doesn't really have a very exciting childhood, but he was able to be schooled formally, but he failed to proceed to university because of monetary challenges. And even if he failed to, get into the university, he had a lot of experience, and he applied whatever he learned while he was growing up and while he was still schooled to thinking well. So he was very creative. Creative and imaginative. It will not take place if there's nothing really to process. Now, how can yes, of course, if it's your skill, if it's your talent, that's given. But Even if you have the skill, even if you have the talent in drawing or in sketching, but if you don't use it, you will never be able to develop it. So it's one thing for us to really learn and process and come up with something. And that's what George Orwell did. He tried to create something out of whatever he has in mind, whatever he had learned in school. He was very imaginative, and he had this foreseeing mind. For example, in that novel alone, he thought well about the future, right? So he mentioned there in that novel uh, the speak right. That speak right is what we call live transcribe now in our time and age. You can click that android.com that talks about live transcribe. I mean, this is an amazing technological advancement that, help not just the normal people, but even the physically challenged. So this is a big help. But George Orwell, because he was just thinking well, he was able to create that kind of stuff, that create that kind of equipment or tool in his book. Next, he mentioned also in 1984 telescreens. Right now, we have the facial recognition cameras. In fact, last year, okay, this facial recognition cameras in China was able to, you know, track 500 Muslim minority. Okay, you can read that in insider.com. And there are a lot of, aspiring developers who are focusing on facial recognition. Some are from Vietnam, some are from China, and some from part of the Western world. But George Orwell, in his time and age, already saw that. And he wrote about it. And it's possible. Right now, we're doing it. Our very own iPhone recognizes, our face. That's why, your iPhone 10 can, just show your face and then it will open the system for you. All these things. So it all started, with something that he thought of, something that he had learned and put them down into writing. That's why George Orwell said, if you don't think well, others will do thinking for you. That's so. Would we like that to happen to us? There's gonna be Big Brother for us. If you're watching that, program, Big Brother, it was actually that kind of concept was taken from here. The Big Brother things for them. That's why they are penalized if they don't follow. Would we want Big Brother to think for us? Okay, so this is the catch that want us to all to think about. With Elon Musk, with Alanis Morissette example, with George Orwell, they see ways of they see education in different ways. But I like to submit to you today that they all aim one same thing. Why does Elon Musk want his children to be educated the way he sees it, the way he sees the future? Because he wants them to learn well about the basic principle of, getting into space so that they can think well. Alanis, it's not because Alanis doesn't like traditional schooling or whether she likes or doesn't like traditional schooling, but she wants her children to learn well so that they can think well. And George Orwell, in most of his novels, are encouraging, challenging us to really think about what we're reading. So, how do we deal with all these things? With the guests featured today in this talk, how can they make sense in our quarantines time until when it's gonna end, we are still uncertain. So yes, there are a lot of webinars, YouTube instructional videos, you know, your unlimited internet. They're there. They're available. Most of them are free. Are we getting into them, or we just want to do what we want to do? So if we ask that kind of question to our kids, it should have been asked first to ourselves. What do we want to learn? Do we only learn what is what is easy, what's interesting? So many questions that we can ask ourselves in this pandemic season. As an educator myself, I'm really really excited what this new normal is gonna be. In fact, I look forward to that time wherein you know no matter how uh, even if there's another pandemic that comes about, people are get adjusted and people learn already. People learn, people get adjusted, and people learn because that kind of adjustment made them think really well. Now, how come webinars, free webinars, instructional videos, okay, even if they help, how come they may not be enough? First off, they are diverse. They are multi-focus. So today, I thought of including another guest. That's the Bival group that offers a focus, very affordable program that assures learning well to think well. But before we proceed to listening to that particular featured program, I'd like to emphasize that in our time and in our age, there are so many ways by which we can learn. But if we are not interested, if we are not willing, and if we are not going to give it a chance, they remain there. So this particular featured program entails us to really make decision. Okay? Again, we have to think. Okay? Because there are a lot of materials available online. So many. So how do we know which ones are really appropriate for our kids, for ourselves? So in talking about our next featured program, I like us to focus on our kids. If we are at home and spending time with them, let's make it count. So, why am I talking about Learn at Home? Learn at Home is a program by Vival Group, which was created for Filipinos by Filipinos. Means to say, um, why do we have to patronize programs that are not catered for Filipino learners? That's very basic. But here, Bival saw to it that what they would feature in their program is truly Filipino. First, um, it falls under the category of hybrid education. And I had a session with hybrid education. And what I meant there in that particular session was, it's the best of, all the practices programs that are available around us. Just get them, learn from them, and let them, influence the way you think so you can think well. So, what is this Learn at Home kit, right? It's out of the box home learning kit for students. So, if we are uncertain yet when schools are going to open, it doesn't mean that we just have to wait. So we can start educating our children, our kids at home. Now, by trying this. And why is it something that assures learning well? See, it's facilitated by parent. So homeschool na yan. It's facilitated by teachers. There are activities that are guided and mediated by teachers. And there's an avenue by which it looks like a real school. That's why there's a school management. And it comes in print and digital versions. So it looks like, if you are not really into computer stuff, digital guy, you can go for print. So learning continues, learning is not stopped. And it makes use of vSmart HMS, or Homeschool Management System. In short, you can track the development of your kids, whether they are progressing or not. And it comes when you know, take a look at it further. Okay, so it features Smart Wizard. What's Wizard all about? It is a collection of supplementary activity sheets for school year 2020. So it's not just coming out of the somewhere, but it's a kind of supplement. Okay, meaning it levels with the current grade level of your children. So you just have to, you know, perhaps ask more about Vibal, about the grade levels that are available. Now it has smart class. It's pre-printed daily lessons with perform. In short, it's just like they're going to school and then they have to finish a certain kind of task. They have to submit on a certain period, and then they get graded. And aside from teacher's guide, there's parents' guide. So parents can be teachers, teachers can be uh, parents, vice versa. Why? Because if you are a teacher parent or a parent teacher, you can do monitoring at home. You can check the learning progress of your own kids. So if you're a tutor hired by a parent, you can avail of it, etc. So many ways. And of course, I mentioned already the homeschool management. It digitized, the parents or teachers' performance as well as the kids. So you get to see there's a tracking way by which we can check progress. And most of all, it comes with augmented reality facility, which is exciting for kids. They can, augment some concepts using their computer. Things for teachers to consider, because augmented reality is an aid that helps explain um, some difficult topics by using augmented reality, because kids of this generation are more visual. So when uh, concepts are augmented, it becomes easy for them to understand. So with this kind of particular feature, that alone will help kid or your kid to learn well. And when they learn well, they can think well. So it's self-paced. It comes with higher level thinking skills and encourages creative problem solving. So everything that uh, so what we discuss in our talk is something that you can find here, and most of all, it involved the parents. It involved, right, or it involves the parents. So you know some sort of bonding wherein kids and parents enjoy each other, not shouting at each other or just talking about what their wants are, but really something that engages them both intellectually, cognitively. So if you want to know more about this smart learning, Bival is available to talk about to talk more about this because this is their specialty. You can compare this group, Vibal group, to other publishing companies. I think they pioneer this particular program. So for today, all right, we have introduced to you, we try to influence you that, when we learn well, we think well. Question is, are we learning well? So that's why we presented to you, whether you are homeschooled, unschooled, you go for traditional schooling, whatever your position is right now, this particular talk simply encourages you to, you know, consider some of the examples we presented. Are you a kind of educator, parent, or somebody who believes the way Elon Musk believes it to be, that education should be something that's looks like Ad Astra, wherein instead of talking about wrenches, screws, you let the kid enjoy working on an engine and find out how to use the wrenches and the screws in exploring that engine? Or are you a kind of educator parent who believes that, school is something that and kids have to enjoy? That's why they can choose whatever they want to learn. Or are you kind of um, educator parent who believes the same way George Orwell did it? For example, pushing them, kids, to learn words so that they can think well, with a caution that if they don't, then others will do the thinking for them. Or you do it like the Bival's way, that you just don't wait passively, but you come up with ways by which you can assure continuous learning and learning well by offering programs that are appropriate in this time and age. All these things keep these featured guests busy. I am busy trying to find out how to continue my kind of work under the new normal setup, wherein I can still partner with other institutions, businesses, so that our nationalians will have places to go to after graduation. We are all faced with this particular big challenge that is right here before us. Now, the question is, what keeps us busy? What do we want to learn? What are we thinking about? So I hope that, as I share this peace of mind with you, you have new thoughts about what are you going to do next. It's not a matter of really, telling that this one doesn't work, this one works. Because I do believe, to end my talk, that there is no there's not just one kind of education that's appropriate for our time and age. It has to be a a combination, a mixture of all the best practices that are made available for us. If there's something best in homeschooling, let's get it. If there's something best in unschooling, let's try it. If there's something best on the way Elon Musk sees education, that is for them to explore themselves, learning by doing and giving them real examples, why not explore it? And if, for us to continue homeschooling and there's available material like this program that Vival comes up or came up with, why not try it? And then put them all together. Maybe that's the best education we could ever have in this time and age. That's all, guys. I I just hope that, I shared a piece of, what I know. Because life is different now. So I hope we can all join our minds together and, come up really with something that's gonna be helpful in the coming days. Thank you so much. I think Vival will be sharing. Hello, Mitch. Are you there?
Then Q&A muna po. I sent you the questions po.
Okay, so first question. How does homeschooling helps in holistic development of the learners? Okay, first off, holistic development. If you are homeschooling, all right, there are you referring to Vival's learn at home? I have to be very specific with my answer. If you are referring to homeschooling in general, I do believe that it is holistic. Why? Because there are a lot of kids right now who are homeschooled, and then they have a session wherein they have to go out with friends, they have to do some sports, they have to socialize, but it's not a daily kind of task. There is a way in homeschool management, the real concept of homeschooling, they do understand holistic development, and so they included that in their curricula. But if you are focusing on the learn at home, out of the box school kit that Vival is offering right now, I do believe that it may not be holistic because it's still something you can access by print or through print or digital, but it can help you further your holistic development of the child. It means to say that instead of rather not giving anything, if on the context of what Bival offers, then smart learning or this homeschooling kit can be of great help. I don't know if I've answered your question well, but again, as I said, as per homeschooling per se, of course they do consider holistic development. Just let me know if I satisfied you with that particular answer. And next question, how can we engage our learners in this kind of approach in learning if they have other interests while using their cell phones? That's an interesting question. I think if you are a parent who's asking this question, and perhaps you may be kind of annoyed by, they're just focused on their cell phones, perhaps we can start asking them, our kids, those who are in with their cell phones all the time, what their involvements are in their cell phone, so we would know how we can be of help to them, or how we can engage them to learn, not only just focusing on whatever their involvements are using their cell phone. Because this one, engage learners in this kind of approach in learning, if if our we are referring to children, like for example, let's say 7 to 10 years old, some of them are already having their own cellular phones, but I'd like to believe that they're into, I don't know if they're already into social media or some sort, but I think they're mostly on games. So if we are talking about games to answer that question, then we as parents can, explore gaming, why gaming becomes so interesting with them. We have to learn first what gaming is all about and why it captivates their attention. And that can help us engage them in whatever we want them to learn. I just hope I give justice to that question. Third question is that what if both parents are working? How could parents facilitate the learning process? Again, this is a limitation. If both parents are working, yes, I understand that. But really, again, let me go back. How old is your child? How old are your children? And who are the other people living with you? If in the context of the Filipino culture, wherein we have extended families living at home, we can assign somebody to do the homeschooling or the smart learning at home. If you guys as parents could not make it, then at least assign somebody. And it's not a whole day 24/7 kind of stuff. We can just apportion a certain time of the day for our kids to just, you know, do this. After this, you can do whatever you want. At least in a day, they are busy with something that is helping them cognitively, intellectually, and all the other leads. Okay, so if I am able to answer your question, well, kindly just uh, put there in your chat box, and you can ask questions because it's free. There's nothing for you to have to pay for, and we are so grateful that we have this kind of facility we can do online, wherein it's free and at the same time we are learning something new. At least that's a hope. I just hope that you learn something new. How are we to give our lessons in religion values at home? All right. So this is very interesting. How are we to give our lessons in religion values at home in homeschooling? If you are a parent or a parent educator staying with your kids at home, you are the best. You are the best teacher of values. Even if you are doing smart learning, homeschooling or not, your kids would see how values are lived in your life. I don't know if that sounds different, but what I think I like to believe in answering that question is that religion or religious values, or all the virtues that you can learn from religion, it's not really something that we can, do text by text, but it is something that kids have to caught, have to catch. They have to be able to catch it, see it on the way we live it. And I think that's something that, digitization of education may not be able to really capture. At, that's my personal opinion. So even if there's 100% digitization of education, I don't think they can ever capture the way we teach, the way we show, the way we captured values. I have to share my video. All right. Hello. Okay. So aside from right content, what other features we need to look at in choosing appropriate learning management system? Okay. So first off, appropriate management system depends on what your needs are. What your needs are. For example, you have kids that are far advanced, then you have to go for advanced materials or advanced homeschooling kits. I'm pretty certain that businesses are have already figured that out. That's why you have to communicate personally with the providers. However, there are also kids who are not far advanced or not as advanced as some kids are. Then there are other available homeschooling toolkits that are appropriate for them. Basic point is that we have to know who to give it to. Who are we referring to when we say right content or what other features we need? Because features are probably all, if not the same, they are similar to one another. It's just like owning a phone, to answer these questions, just like owning a phone. There are some phones that are far advanced or uh, far advanced in their features, but the ones who have possessed that particular phone with advanced features do not know how to use it. Doesn't make sense. So let's appropriate the okay the tool who to those who would use it. In homeschooling, is homeschooling applicable to all students? I'd like to say yes, especially now that um, we are still uncertain when school's gonna open. So to keep our kids busy, we have to have that. We have to consider that option, homeschooling. Now, applicable. Again, we have to check who these kids are, because if these kids are, they are stuck at home, right? They have no choice, but you have to provide them with something that will really help them become better then. How about those students who don't have internet connections or gadgets, especially those students, okay, who were living in far-flung areas? How can they participate? I like to believe that Vival does asynchronous program wherein you don't really have to do it live online or real time, but you can do it maybe downloadable or something. But Bival does it print. So that's something you can avail of. It's print. Okay, for those who can't access the internet yet, for those who don't have Wi-Fi, etc. So we can go for print. And that's the beauty of having a provider like Bival, because they can do both. They have prints and digital, right? So I hope I answered that well. Okay, how we can, sorry, I can't really read. We can give practical exercise at home, which only can be done in school, like in computer system services, which is more hands-on. At home, they don't have equipments. All right. So again, that's where some sort of related with Elon Musk. Why do you have to teach about computer when they don't have computer? So again, that's where our resourcefulness comes in, because you are, born to be resourceful. So even if we don't have computers at home, all right, perhaps we can help them by understanding some drawings. Okay, so we can go back to basic for kids to understand what we're talking about or what we want them to learn. Having a real equipment with you is a bonus. But remember, in the earlier times of education, they don't have much visuals, but they learn well. That's the point I'm driving at. Some of us may have limitations right now, and it's considered a challenge. But do we just consider it as a challenge and shrug our shoulder about it and don't do anything about? So it's something for us to consider as well. Okay, I have these limitations, I have these challenges, but can I do something about it? How can we extend learning for those learners without gadgets or belong to yeah, in fact, when I was talking about hybrid education, this was one particular goal of Elon Musk. He gave in a lot of money for kids coming from the poorest of the poor. For them to be educated in 15 months, he funded an application software. It's an open source wherein after 15 months or within 15 months, kids can already learn the basic of reading, writing, and arithmetic. So I guess it's an open source. If we really want to be of help to these to these families of wherever we are right now, we can access that. You can check it online, Global Learning X Prize. Okay, it's something that is shareable. You can share that with kids, and but if they don't have computer or equipment, some materials there are downloadable. You can do it by print. So what I'm saying here is there are so many ways by which we can really make education work. The only problem is when we don't think about it. That's why this avenue that we have, thanks to Vival, is something where we can get to learn these avenues. What are these avenues by which we can really, get to learn more about how to provide continuous education, right? I hope I'm able to answer all your questions here. How can we extend learning to those learners without? I think that's similar. How can we sure that learning competencies offers by our will also be attained by students during? Is there CG or TG manuals? There is, I think, teacher's guide in. If you are referring to Bival Smart Learning, they have teacher's guide and they have parents guide, and then they also have, I think, home management school system, wherein competencies are rather checked. It's one thing for me to say it, but it's another for you to inquire about it. So, at the end of before the end of this session, I think there's a certain portion or certain time for Bival to be talking about their program. Which is better po, homeschooling or unschooling? Sa palagay ko po, it's not a question of which is better, but which is appropriate to your kind of setup, to your environment, to the people you are with, or to the people you want to give this education to. Because whether it's homeschooling, unschooling, traditional schooling, ad astras kind of schooling, I do believe that just focusing on one may not be enough. Depends really on how and what your situation is. Because I cannot really give and provide an answer for the best schooling that whose kids I don't know more about. So maybe Elon Musk talked about that kind of schooling because he was thinking about his kids, that he wanted his kids to explore the space as well, even after his passing. Alanis Morissette believed that, you know, his kids are creative, talented, imaginative. So she's giving them a kind of education that's particularly focusing on that. But if she decides to enroll the kids to a traditional school, kids may have, other focus and may forget about it. So it depends. I hope I answered that. And then, what is the advantage of homeschooling compared to? All right, homeschooling, you do it your pace, your way, your time. Meaning, not like school. You have to wake up in the morning, dress up, dress yourselves up, and then go to school, listen to the teacher, wait for recess time and dismissal, etc. Do your assignment. In homeschooling, you are practically home, and you just have to apportion certain time by which you will do math, you will do English, etc. Of course, it still follows the traditional concept, but you are freer in a sense. No one's gonna tell you, you're late, like that. Perhaps your teacher or your parent will just tell you, okay, we have to finish this in 5 hours. So something like that. So for more information about homeschooling, there are a lot of webinars in YouTube as well. And I guess there's a lot by Bival as well. You can just scroll and read more on that. What is the advantage of homeschooling? Is the same. All right. Okay. So, um, as I just like to repeat, I think there's no other questions anymore. I just like us to, sum up our Q&A. First off, there is no better or best way to best way of schooling. In our situation in the Philippines, we cannot go even if we want to full digitization or online education. We cannot, but we can go hybrid education. What do I mean with that? Hybrid education for me, as I defined it in my talk last time, is something that you can give to your students, to your kids, wherever you are, regardless of internet connection, problems on computer, etc. Hybrid education includes in its scope culture, environment, what is natural and what is nurtural. Point is, hybrid education does not speak only of digital learning, hybrid learning. For me, the concept of hybrid education encompasses everything that we do for our kids to learn. We need teachers, we need traditional schools, we need the environment, even your backyard, even your garden is a source of education. And that falls under the category of hybrid education. You cannot capture everything online in our time in the Philippines right now. I'm talking about, now. First, our internet provision is not that advanced. Let us leave that. I mean, let us face that reality that even if we can conduct webinars like this, it cannot handle all of us doing web talk all at the same time if we are going to do full digitization. What I'm saying, and I want you to remember, is you can go hybrid education with all the resources that you have right now with you. We can have smart learning. You can do attend you can attend webinars, you do instructional videos, put them together. That's hybrid education. So guys, I will not tell you that you go for unschooling, you go for homeschooling, you go for traditional. Right now, whether we like it or not, we can't go traditional. There's still pandemic, right? And with the kind of Department of Health we have right now, we don't really know, because even if there's artificial intelligence that can project, with the data that we have or the data that we cannot have, we can't even provide, we can't really know when it's going to end. But with the hope and prayer that it ends soon, sooner than we expect. To end, I just hope that with this little peace of mind, I was able to give you something to ponder about, new thoughts about, you know, um, hybrid education, the new now, and most of all, how you give and continue the kind of education, the kind of hybrid education that you can provide for your children, for our kids this time of pandemic. So it does not stop here. There are so many things to read about, to think about. I do hope that you continue reading and you continue thinking. That's all. Thank you. And God bless you all. I think I will be turning the floor to um, Bival Group, Ma'am Michelle. She will be talking about the programs that your kids can actually engage themselves with. Ma'am Michelle, I'll turn the floor to you. All right, so um, this program is being shown by Ma'am Michelle right now. It's okay. It's enrollment is now open for everyone. Again, it's by Vival, no? It's fun, interactive, and affordable learning at home. I believe this has something to do with gamified kind of education. So you can, you and your kids can both enjoy it. Um, uh, Perhaps you've been doing some games with your children at home, and you can try asking Bival more about this summer program. But okay, this is their contact number. You can just ask them. Um, you see their logo, experience learning. Learning is not something that you just watch or do it, but you have to experience it. And I guess that particular slide, summer learning program, captivated or was able to capture experience learning, because even though you are just fronting your computer, you're just looking at it, you and your kid, you can learn something, and it it has a lot of fun. Why? Because it involves you and the child. And the most important thing here, there's this one particular adjective that you guys have to focus on. What's that? Affordable. Because other games that you have in your smartphones, other apps in your Androids or in your iPhones, they're kind of expensive. So we'd like to you to try that. I think this, they're saying it affordable. So please inquire, please ask. We cannot let it pass just like that, because not everything in this life that assures learning is affordable. So there may be free ones, but after quite some time, you have to pay. But Bibal is doing it um, in much an affordable price, meaning something you all of us can avail of. Okay, so please take a look, take a picture of the contact number for more information about this summer program. All right, so the numbers are there. You go. So please, please, please don't forget, take a look at that and then inquire more. They are the specialists in their programs. So with that, it's time to say bye-bye. And if you want to learn more, you know where to contact me. I'm from National University. Just email me. Um, I think that's on the last slide. I failed to show it. Mitch. Okay. All right. So you can take a look at my information. There you go. Yes, that's it. Don't forget, you can email me anytime, and you can ask Bival if there are things you like to know more about. Bye bye. God bless you all. See you.